What's going on, everybody? This is Take His Whistle podcast. We have another episode for you here. This one is our NFL episode. It is coming on a Thursday, not a Tuesday. We switched it up. The college episode hit on Tuesday, but we got you here with the NFL episode. We got a lot to talk about. We got obviously the playoff picture continues to become more and more relevant as the months go on, and yeah, just a whole lot of upsets this past week. So just grab a drink, get in that zone, relax, and take a listen. We'll be back shortly.
Steps into it. Pass is caught. Sideline. Touchdown. Play clock at 5. Pass is
back today, so I got time to be tripping and writing no love song. Yeah, writing no love song. We all experience love.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Parker. This is Take His Whistle podcast, and as always, I'm here with my good friend Josh.
What's going on, everybody?
And like I said earlier, just a second ago, we have the NFL episode here. It is coming on a Thursday, as Thursday night football is underway. So a little switch up here. Obviously, the college episode hit on Tuesday, but we got you here for that NFL episode. I think we hop right into this thing, and I think we just kind of retouch exactly what happened last week, because last week actually ended up being a crazy week. I was in and out, kind of on the run, so I didn't watch too much of like football itself that day, this past Sunday, but I did sit there and I watched because it was just a game I really wanted to watch, was the Eagles and the 49ers. They battled in Philadelphia, and the Eagles became the Eagles. Last week we were talking about how good the Eagles are and how much we are saying they're the best team in the NFL, and the 49ers come in, handle business in Philadelphia, and take home the win. Josh, does this make the 49ers, I mean, it's got to make them the best team in the NFL, right? Like, as of right now?
It's a little complicated for me, in my opinion, because obviously if you look at the records, you would still say that the Eagles are better because they are 10-2. But if you look at the actual teams and how they've performed, they're actually very similar and very close. Obviously the 49ers took the head-to-head win in very dominant fashion, and even that's an understatement. I mean, the Eagles quite honestly looked horrible, and it was at Lincoln, and the 49ers walked into Philly and did whatever they wanted to. I would say I'm not comfortable yet in calling them the best team in the NFL yet. I would say that they're getting there, though. They're definitely getting there. I would say they're very on par with the Eagles as of right now. So if I had to say anything, I would say the Eagles and the 49ers are both the best team in the NFL right now, which is very interesting to see, because they're both in the NFC, and I mean, we could see another rematch in the NFC Championship this year, and that would be awesome. And hopefully it's not like the game we saw on Sunday, but I mean, yeah, both teams are phenomenal, and me personally, I'm not comfortable yet saying that the Eagles or the 49ers are better than the other, even though the 49ers just won the head-to-head.
I do know, like, yeah, the 49ers have, I believe, 4 losses now. Is that right?
The 49ers have 3 losses.
3 losses. So when they are healthy, though, there hasn't been a team to really mess with the 49ers when they are fully healthy. And we've seen it. We saw it in Philadelphia, obviously, this past week. But, I mean, just go a few weeks back when they matched up against Dallas. And if I'm not mistaken, that game might have also been in Dallas. I could be wrong on that. But another example, they just beat the brakes off of so-called one of the best teams in the NFC. So that's 2 games when they have been healthy. that these other good teams haven't even touched them. They haven't came close to touching them necessarily. But what I am more like kind of concerned about, or not necessarily concerned about, just like questioning it, is the new MVP odds have came out, and Brock Purdy has jumped up against everybody to become the new favorite. And it just blows my mind. How do you... His stats aren't anything crazy. I mean, he's putting up good numbers, but to sit there and say he's the favorite over someone like Jalen Hurts, I know they just beat him. Yeah, I get it. But to sit there and say that Brock Purdy is more valuable to that super team of a 49ers team we have than Jalen Hurts is mind-boggling. And again, they don't necessarily have C.J. Stroud, which we've said for the past however many weeks on the NFL episode that we both think that C.J. Stroud should at least be in that conversation. But, you know, it's hard for me to sit there and say, when you were talking about the most valuable player in the NFL, Brock Purdy is more valuable to the 49ers than Jalen Hurts is to the Eagles, or C.J. Stroud is to the Texans. It's just, that team is so loaded. Who's ever the quarterback on that team is just set up for success.
Yeah, I mean, this was his best game all season by far, probably, at least since that Dallas game. He threw for 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, just like he did against Dallas. Threw the ball 3 more times in this game than he did in Dallas. But I personally feel like, as of right now, whoever the quarterback is on the best team in the league is just going to automatically lead the MVP race. That tends to be what it is every year, or at least it has been that way for the past few years. We saw it last year with Patrick Mahomes. Although Patrick Mahomes had a very good season last year, there were very good arguments for Jalen Hurts to win it. But because the Chiefs were just the better team, I think Patrick Mahomes kind of edged out Jalen Hurts last year. But I'm with you. I think you could put mostly anybody in that as the starter of that team, and I think they would do just as good, if not better. And that's no dig to Brock Purdy. He's been playing good. He's been playing good this year. He really has. And I think a lot of people underestimated him coming into this season. I think a lot of people thought that he would kind of show more so that he's a fraud, because this is his first full season as the starter. But he's kind of been proving those haters wrong a little bit. And he's been playing pretty exceptional this season so far. And in that 3-game stretch that they had where they lost 3 in a row, I will say Brock Purdy did not look MVP caliber at all. Which is the truth. He didn't look like an MVP caliber quarterback. Whereas I think if you look at Jalen Hurts and you look at what he's done for that team, and you also look at what he's done in their losses, he didn't play good against the Jets, but he had a good game against the 49ers. He played good against the 49ers, relatively. They threw the ball a ton. They threw the ball 45 times. He completed 26 of his passes for 298 yards and only 1 touchdown. But he also ran for a touchdown. He didn't run for a touchdown. He just got pushed into the end zone. But you know, it's an extremely effective play, but that's a whole nother conversation that I do want to bring up later, by the way, Parker, because there's been talks about it being banned this offseason. So,
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think Vegas just kind of goes with whoever the quarterback is on the quote best team in the league so far is.
I mean, yeah, I see where you say that. And then I guess if that's just what they're doing, I think that the NFL needs to reevaluate what the meaning is of the MVP award, because that's not, in my opinion, what it is. Because even that 3-game stretch where they did lose all 3 of them, they had injuries. You know, Debo was in and out of injuries. Christian McCaffrey was in and out of injuries. And whenever these players aren't playing, you see Purdy struggle. whenever he doesn't have all those weapons to rely on and bail him out, he's got arguably the best running back in football on this team. Like, and at that running back is a catching back. So if you are in any bit of trouble, you can make a 15-yard sack into a 30-yard hustle play by McCaffrey, because it's just how good he is. And so it's just like, we just haven't seen anything from Purdy that makes me think that he stands alone as the favorite to win the MVP. And I think most people are with me on that. I mean, I think that just around the NFL community, people say that people say that Jalen Hurts still needs to be the favorite. And to that, you could say that Jalen Hurts is in a very similar circumstance as far as just having a loaded team, but just overall talent skill, it's such a bigger loss for the Eagles to lose Hurts than the 49ers to lose Purdy. And then, I mean, I know I bashed them a few weeks ago, but, somebody else that could easily be put in that conversation the way they're playing right now is Dak Prescott. I mean, Dak Prescott is going off and he is making that offense into such a well-rounded team. But at the same time, their competition, they haven't really played anybody too good, or even like a top defense in the league in a while. And with that, I mean, when we see that whenever they play lesser teams, that they tend to go off for 35 plus points. So I don't necessarily would say him. I wouldn't, again, that's another thing. I wouldn't put Prescott as an MVP favorite, but his performances week in and week out, it has to be known and has to be recognized that Prescott could make a late push for the MVP race, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and all these guys who are in the MVP race are all these guys who are playing great right now. I mean, we see a similarity in all of them. They all have a top receiver on their team. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is playing out of his mind this year. A.J. Brown is playing out of his mind this year. All of the 49ers are playing out of their mind this year.
Right.
Tyreek's playing out of his mind this year. Hopefully Jay Jettis can finish his season playing out of his mind this year. As a Vikings fan, I hope he does. He's coming back this week, I believe, which I'm very excited to see him back. Yes, very happy.
He is supposed to suit up today or this week.
But it's something that you see very often in most of these top quarterbacks, is that they have a weapon on their team that's considered a top weapon in the league. But that's normal though. That's normal. I think the one name that's in the race somewhat that you could say doesn't have a top weapon in the league, you might know who I'm about to say, Parker, but CJ Stroud is working with a second or third year wide receiver in Nico Collins, and then he's working with a rookie wide receiver on the other side in Tank Dell, who he actually no longer has anymore. So now he's working with another rookie wide receiver in Noah Brown, who has been completely under the radar this year, but has played phenomenal. Actually, I take that back because I don't actually know if he is a rookie. I'm pretty sure he is a rookie. I'm going to look it up, though, because I think he might have played in Dallas. He did play in Dallas. He has been in the league for... Okay, he's been in the league for a fucking long-ass time. He's been in the league since 2017. So he's not a rookie, but by no means is a standout guy. And I think back when he was on Dallas, he was like their fourth or fifth string. Yeah, and he's making his name known now with CJ Stroud. And it's the CJ Stroud. Yeah. He takes a lot out of a little. You know what I mean? CJ Stroud is doing talent. Out of all the guys that are at the top, CJ Stroud is doing the most with the least amount of. He's doing the most with less. Yes. And I would also throw Trevor Lawrence in that category as well. Even though they have good weapons. Obviously Travis Etienne and Calvin Ridley's having a bounce back year. They have good receivers on their team, but again,
compared to the other stud teams in the league, the Jacksonville doesn't compare. So I would also throw Lawrence, even though he just got hurt in that category as with Stroud.
Yeah. A game that I want to talk about, and I just saw it on our little like agenda that we have that we make for every episode. I have one of these guys on this team, on my fantasy team, and he somehow still had a very good game, even though his game ended with the score of 6-0. And
Okay.
the man I'm talking about is Keenan Allen. And
Yes.
I want to talk about how the Chargers are so bad when they shouldn't be bad at all. They shouldn't be bad. They should be a team that's contending for Super Bowls. And they're not. And it almost seems like they're playing down to the level of the team they play every week.
It's such a situation. I specifically wanted to add it onto our like little agenda we have because I wanted to hear your take on it, because to me, the Chargers as a whole needs to be studied in a lab. You look at their team on paper and they don't have a hole. Their team is so good on paper. And for whatever reason, this team's sitting at 5-7 on the year. Before this win against the Patriots, they were 4-7. Like that is just it's crazy. Like you have a potentially a top 5 quarterback, top 10 definitely, but potentially a top 5 quarterback in Justin Herbert on your team. You have
A Hall of Fame wide receiver.
yeah, and who's probably having his best year of his career.
Yeah, for sure.
You have another arguable top 5 running back in Austin Eckler. Like, your offense, obviously Mike Williams did go down at the beginning of the season, but then you have, which some could say a bust in Quentin Johnson, the rookie. But, I mean, he's still promising. It's just that their offense has so many explosive weapons, and for whatever reason, they just can't get the job done, or they're just barely scraping by. I mean, it's just... And their defense isn't bad either. Their defense really is not that bad. I mean, obviously you saw it. Granted, it's the Patriots, and we talked last week how much of a train wreck they are, but they did shut out the Patriots, so, I mean, I guess that means something. But to only put up 6 points and both of them come from field goals...
they have Derwin James Jr., who's one of the best safeties in the league. They have Khalil Mack, who's having a breakout season after having a few seasons of obscurity.
In his old age, yeah.
Yeah, in his old age. I mean, he's been irrelevant for the last like 3-4 years. Ever since he, I guess his first year on the Bears is probably the last time anybody has ever heard anything about him. And he's having a great season this year. They have a great young corner in Asante Samuel Jr. They have other names in there who are, very exceptional, like Eric Kendricks. And it's just, it seems, I don't know if it's the coaching, because honestly, when I look, I see Chargers fans on Twitter all the time, and it doesn't seem like the problem is agreed upon with fans. Like, half of them complain about coaching, and the other half just complain about the players not playing up to par of what they should be. But you almost want to say that's not true, because their best receiver is having a career year. Their quarterback is having a great year. If you look at Justin Herbert's statistics, he's having a great year with an injury. He has an injury that he's been playing with since practically the beginning of the season. I mean, in the last game, you can say that their run game is kind of what held them back, because Austin Eckler just had a horrible game. 14 carries for only 18 yards is terrible. But yeah, they're such a mystery to me as to how they can be so mid with so much talent that they have.
Yeah, To your point about coaching. I mean, I really quick just Googled his name, Brandon Staley, and he just, when you really look at his resume, he genuinely does not seem to be fit as a head coach just yet. I mean, first of all, he's fairly young. He's 40 years old, which is it's fairly young in the coaching world. But
there's a lot of them in the NFL nowadays, though.
He coached a bunch of small schools and then went to Tennessee as a grad assistant. And then next thing you know, he spent 1 year at James Madison as a defensive coordinator, and then all of a sudden he's in the NFL for linebackers. He's a linebackers coach. Then went to become a defensive coordinator for the Rams, and then all of a sudden he is the head coach for the Chargers.
What year was he the DC for the Rams?
2020.
Okay, so that was their Super Bowl year.
It was, and that might have been the reasoning why the Chargers were so comfortable with them letting him have that head coaching job. But clearly to me it seems like he is a defensive minded player. Or
actually no, that wasn't their Super Bowl year. Actually, 2021 was their Super Bowl year.
Okay, but I mean, still, I think that was before they had Stafford, right? 2020 then, because their first year
their first year with Stafford they won the Super Bowl. Yeah.
So it just, to me, it seems like he is a defensive minded coach. He puts defense first, which is fine, but clearly it seems like their offense is being neglected in a way, and it is not shining the way it should be because they have so much talent on that team. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable the way that they can just not do good.
It's been like this for a few. I know they made the playoffs last year, but I mean, who really thought that the Chargers were going to go anywhere? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, so here's an interesting game as well. The Texans snap the Broncos' 6-game winning streak on a very good game. It was a very fun game to watch. I don't know if you watched it, Parker, but I did. A very sad day for me as a Tank Dell owner in one of my fantasy leagues. Tank Dell tore his fibula and is out for the season. He broke his fibula, sadly, so he is out for the season, which is very unfortunate, but the Texans still managed to pull out and still managed to win the game 22-17, and CJ Stroud had a fairly good game, and Russ, on the other hand, did not. Russ played honestly quite terrible.
3 picks.
It was the Russ of old, I guess is a way to put it, even though he's really only had one.
The
new old, yeah. It's the Russ of new old. 186 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. That's not gonna win you games. It's not gonna win you games. And on the other hand, though, Nico Collins went off. And if anybody has him in fantasy, then I'm sure you were happy because 9 receptions for 190, what was it? 191 yards and a touchdown. That's a stat line right there. And it was a very fun game though because it did come down to the wire. Russ had a chance to win the game. They had the ball on the winning drive, and unfortunately he threw the game-sealing pick. So the Texans managed to get out of there with a win. But did you watch any other games, Parker, that you want to talk about? Because I watched all of them. I was a red zone merchant all day. So
I want to take a second to talk just about the Texans, and I think with Nico performing the way he did after Dell went down, and obviously it sucks to see Tank Dell go down, but at the same time, I think it also really shows a sign of the future as far as your players are this good that when somebody goes down, the next man steps right back up. And I think at the beginning of the season, Nico was over Tank Dell. Like, people were more talking about Nico than they were Tank Dell. And then obviously Tank Dell kind of just turned into the Tank Dell that we all know. But as soon as he goes down, Nico steps right back up into that position as the number one receiver in Houston, and he takes off with it. To me personally, it just seems like the Houston Texans, obviously they have a history of poor management decisions, but if they continue on just this path that they're on, the Texans should be good for a while. And even with their iffy running game that they had, Dameon Pierce, he didn't have a great game by any means, but he definitely contributed. You could tell he contributed. He left his mark on this game. And I hate to say it, but every week that goes by, I'm becoming more and more of a Texans fan. I enjoy just watching them. I did not watch this game.
We talked about it like in one of the earlier episodes, Parker, but they've just been so bad for so long that seeing them succeed now, it's just such a good feeling. Like, I feel like almost everybody in the league, unless you're in the same division as the Texans, you just love to see it. Like, to see the Texans succeed now, especially after the disaster class that the end of the Deshaun Watson era was for them with everything that happened off the field. I'm not going to go into all that because he's a terrible person. But for them to rebuild the team the way they did, and DeMeco Ryans is one of the greatest young coaches in the NFL right now. You know, when you think of young coaches in the NFL, you think of Kyle Shanahan, not Mike McDaniel, Dolphins head coach. I'm blanking out on his name right now. I'm sorry. But and then DeMeco Ryans is in there because what he's done with the Texans this year is nothing short of an incredible job.
Yeah. I'm telling you, they're going to be good. They're going to be good for a while, for years to come. Obviously,
I agree.
You got to handle someone like Stroud with care because already, I don't know. It's hard for me to say that. Comparing.
It is Mike McDaniel. I was wrong.
1 year to 1 year. Obviously, the Houston has had more success this year, but just head to head, Deshaun Watson's rookie year against C.J. Stroud's rookie year. Would you say you would take Stroud over Deshaun Watson? Obviously, with all that being said, we know what the results are. The Texans this year are a lot more successful than they were back when Deshaun was their starting quarterback. But even then, Deshaun helped them out, you know what I mean? Like, they made the playoffs with Deshaun, if I'm not mistaken. But would you personally take Stroud over Watson, minus all the...
Well, in his rookie year, he actually got hurt and didn't play the full season.
Oh.
So, if I'm going off of his second year in Houston, let me pull up C.J. Stroud's stats as of right now, because then I can get I can get more of a. Which, by the way, C.J. Stroud is first in passing yards in the league right now. So
yes, he did pass Sam Howell, which is another name that I didn't think I'd be saying.
So, as of right now, again, you got to think back. Back in Deshaun's first few years, it was only a 16-game season, right?
Yeah.
It is now a 17-game regular season.
Right.
So there's that 1 game difference. With 4 more weeks to go, CJ Stroud is about 500 passing yards. No, sorry. Okay, yeah, okay. I'm for Watson, I'm going to count his sophomore season as his rookie year just for comparison's sake. Mm-hmm. So, off of that note, with 4 games left in the season to go, CJ Stroud is about 500 passing yards off of what Deshaun Watson's rookie season was, sophomore season, but I'm going to say rookie season. He's about 500 passing yards off of Watson's rookie year in Houston, passing yards wise. Okay. He doesn't have the same completion percentage, but that could change. And he's also on pace to have a better touchdown to interception ratio. Deshaun Watson had a 26-9 touchdown to interception ratio. CJ Stroud is at 20-5 right now.
Yeah.
Let's see. Deshaun Watson got sacked 62 times in his rookie season. CJ Stroud has only been sacked 31 times. So significantly less. And
Yeah, but
I'm sure it doesn't really play into his stats at all. I'm just it's more so me talking about like
the team.
Well, because if you think about it, if Deshaun Watson was able to do that while getting sacked 62 times, that's pretty impressive. And if you also look at it in the sense of what they are now, that O-line is obviously better now than it was with Deshaun Watson.
I definitely think that what Watson came into was a way worse situation than
it was a way worse Texans team than CJ Stroud came into.
It's equivalent to the Panthers team this year, in my opinion.
Yeah. The Texans in 2017 were nothing comparable to the 2023 Texans. Which, by the way, I didn't know this, by the way, but Deshaun Watson's best season that he had was his last year that he played before taking that 2-year gap.
He was a stud. I want to say he was in the MVP conversation.
He threw for almost 5,000 yards, and he had 33 touchdowns to 7 interceptions.
You want to talk about downfalls. I mean, obviously we know what happened with him with all his off-the-field issues and stuff like that, but even just football, and maybe it was taking, a year or two off?
It was
maybe
2 years.
That's what it was at the end of the day. But, yeah, like you said, he was a MVP candidate his last year in Houston. And that was another point to my whole thing is with a player like CJ Stroud, right now it's all fun, you know, he's young, he's a rookie, he's on his rookie deal, but eventually that rookie deal is going to be up. And you best believe in today's world, CJ Stroud's going to want his money. He's going to want that bag. Deshaun Watson wanted his bag as well, and Houston was not willing to give that up. They were not. And then obviously around that same times when all the allegations came out with Watson, but Houston was not. They were trying to either get him to come for a much lower price or they were going to get rid of him. So you, with a quarterback like that in just today's world, you're going to have to, if you want somebody and they're really that good, you're going to have to pay for it.
I would say if CJ Stroud keeps playing the way he is right now for the next 4 years and finishes out his rookie season and he finds his way in the top 5, top 10 quarterback conversation, then I would say the Texans would have to pay him. I don't think they'd have a choice. Unless they wanted to stay in endless rebuild mode, I would assume that they'd have to pay him. Because if they let a guy like him walk, and if he performs the way that he is right now for 4 years, then yeah, you can't let a guy like that walk, because then you're just right back to where you were before this year.
They did it with Watson, though. You know,
but the only difference with Watson though is because right around the same time he was looking for is when all that other stuff happened off the field. So obviously they weren't going to pay him at that point because they were like, well, hell no, we're not going to give you money because look at what you did. So it's a different scenario, but I would say if none of that happened with Watson, then I could see a world where CJ Stroud isn't a Texan right now, and I could see a world where Watson is still the quarterback on the Texans. But at the same time, they also let J.J. Watt walk away, and they also let D-Hop walk away. So, not walk away, they traded both of them away. But, so who's to say that Watson wouldn't have requested a trade out of there or something? But, yeah, it's an interesting hypothetical to think about, but, yeah.
The Texans need to just... I just hope, I hope for not necessarily Houston and just like the Texans franchise, because at the end of the day I don't really care about the Texans that much, but for CJ Stroud's sake, because I want to see him have a really good legacy in the NFL, hopefully the Texans do realize what they have and they aren't just going to think of him as just another expandable piece. You know what I mean?
I really hope he's not just a one-year wonder. Like, I hope he actually is this good every year, and he does do this well every year, because man, if he downfalls next year, that will be so sad because I love watching him play. He's a great quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, and to most of the NFL community, I feel like if the draft was retaken, most people would take C.J. Stroud over Bryce Young, and just simply we know how bad of a situation Bryce Young is in, and if Stroud was in the Panthers, he could potentially have the same thing that Bryce Young's had, like as far as the year goes. But I think he'll be all right. I think he'll be fine. You know, he's done nothing but succeed since he's been in college as well. So, besides they can't beat Michigan. They cannot beat Michigan.
Yeah. Never did it when he was at Ohio State either. So
That's what I'm saying.
So, sucks for the Buckeyes, but I don't know. Get better, I guess. So actually, do you want to talk about the Packers, or do you want to talk about some injury problems?
Well, I do want to talk about the injury problems, but as for the Packers game, really quick. And the only reason I do really want to talk about it and touch on it was because I know you said something about your Vikings earlier today, earlier in the episode. All of a sudden, we were like, it's going to come down. I was talking to you. I was like, it's going to come down to that final 3-week stretch where you play the Lions twice and the Packers.
Now it really is.
All of a sudden, the Packers have made a name for themselves when everybody thought that they were going to start rebuilding for next year and everything like that, and just making sure that Jordan Love is really the way they want to go. The Packers beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They beat them, 27-19 in Green Bay at Lambeau, to tie the Vikings at 6-6 on the year. All of a sudden, that's probably the closest race in football, besides the Lions kind of separated themselves away from everybody else. But Josh, you a little bit worried of the Packers? I mean, on paper you would say that the Vikings are a better team, but the Packers continue to win, man. Are you a little nervous for it? They did, and the Packers did beat the Lions, by the way, a couple on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, right. So I am a little yes and no, and the reason why I am is because if we get the Jordan Love that played against the Chiefs, we might be screwed. But if we get the Jordan Love that's played against, like, I mean, let me just look at a couple of the other games. Yeah, if we get the Jordan Love that played against us earlier this year, or if we get the Jordan Love from the Raiders game, the Jordan Love from, I don't know, the Steelers game, like any of those losses that they have, if we get the Jordan Love from one of those games, because by the way, this was his best game of the year, was against the Chiefs. 267 passing yards for 3 touchdowns, no picks. That is his best game of the year. All the other wins they have, he didn't play this good. If we get this Jordan Love, it'll be tough. But if we get any other Jordan Love, I feel like it'll be manageable. But I mean, he went out there and played like prime Aaron Rodgers. So, and Christian Watson is phenomenal.
Which he did
when healthy. Yeah. When healthy, because he has tended to be injury prone really badly so far in his career. Can go down with quite literally the slightest injury, which sucks because he's really good. I love watching him play. His route running's great, his deep threat ability is great, and he's great at catching the ball. But he just gets injured a lot. And if he can't stay healthy, and if he misses games, if he misses time, you tend to see the Packers slip a little bit just because they don't really have another receiver that really compares to Watson like that. Now, we saw the emergence of Romeo Doubs a little bit at the beginning of this season, but he kind of fell off too in the middle of the season. He had a good game last week against the Chiefs, but there's that fall off there. There's that inconsistency.
When Watson doesn't play.
Yeah, nobody is as consistent as Watson. So, it's tricky. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see, because it's definitely a tough race now. It's definitely a close race, but it's gonna be fun, and I hope we can win. I hope we can win. I honestly hope we can win out, because that's best case scenario.
And then, like you said earlier, Justin Jefferson is returning to the field. Finally, with the final week of most people's NFL fantasy football seasons, the regular season before the playoff starts. I feel majority of it ends tonight, or this week, I'm sorry. And Justin Jefferson is returning. And again, this begs the question that I asked you earlier. When Justin Jefferson comes back, now let's think in between his injury and now, they have a whole new quarterback. A similar play style, but that quarterback has found his favorite targets. When Jefferson comes back, do you think it's going to mess with the flow a little bit of what the Vikings come? Obviously, the Vikings are coming off a loss that probably to a game they should have won, but they're coming off a loss. Do you think for Jefferson, is that something that kind of meshes with the team chemistry, him coming back? That, I mean, not saying that he's that type of player, but he has to have the ball. Like, I'm not saying that like he's going to be upset if he doesn't get the ball, because I don't think he's that type of guy, but he's just the type of person that you have to give the ball to. You have to give the ball to Justin Jefferson. Do you think it messes with the chemistry going on in Minnesota?
So, first off, Joshua Dobbs played horrible against the Bears. That was just a terrible game. Not fun to watch. But I would say no. Because if you look at the beginning of the season, in the other games at the beginning of the season, I know we started off 0-3, but when you look at all those games, you see you obviously see a dominance from Jay Jettas, but you also see the ball being spread around still. And just for an example, if you look at the game against the Chargers, for example, you had Justin Jefferson with 7 receptions, 149 yards, and a touchdown, which is great. But he wasn't even the most targeted receiver, or at least he didn't lead the team in receptions. TJ Hawkinson led the team in receptions. And then Jordan Addison was right behind with 6 receptions. So the ball was still spread around. Now, I know we had a different quarterback back then, obviously, miss you, Kirk, but it just it'll be interesting because Joshua Dobbs, this is his first game with Jay Jettas, and I guess we'll see how heavy he wants to rely on him. Now, at the same time, it's also Jay Jetta's first game back, so we also have to see if maybe he's on a snap count or something like that, because we don't know what the Vikings are gonna do with him. They could play him. They could play him very sparingly. They could send him out there for the whole game and let him play the whole game. Which I know you're hoping for the full game option, because we have a very important playoff scenario in our fantasy league, which we can talk about later. But it just depends. It depends what type of Jay Jettas we get. It depends what type of Dobbs we get. It depends on how they want to do it. But no. I think for a team to be successful, you have to spread the ball around successfully, and you have to spread it around evenly. And in order to do that, Joshua Dobbs is going to have to pass to guys like TJ and Addison still, and And even at the beginning of the season, before Kirk's injury, we saw a lot of Jay Jettas in the open field, but once we hit that red zone, we saw a lot of Addison and a lot of TJ. Again, I know it's a different quarterback now, but we could still see that type of scenario where it's different red zone targets compared to open field targets. But yeah, that's my thought process.
And I hope so, because I enjoy watching the Vikings play. Obviously, this isn't coming off of last year. This isn't exactly the season they were hoping for. But the injury bug has struck a lot this year for basically every key player on this team. I mean, obviously Cousins, Madison has been in and out of injury. They had Cam Akers, who they traded for at the beginning of the year. He went down pretty early. So just unfortunate year for the Vikings, but they still have they're hopeful of the playoffs. As far as the playoffs go, let me look this up really quick. Do you know off the top of your head how far out you are? Or if what you guys are you guys in the playoffs as of
From
right
the
now?
playoff, if I had to guess,
Right now,
the last time I looked, we had a wild card spot.
Yeah. The Lions got the Lions got your division locked up for the most part, I would say.
Yeah.
But the playoff picture right now is it does have the Vikings 6 and it has the Packers 7. But at the same time, the Rams and the Seahawks are right on your tail. But that is when you look at it, that 6 and 7 spot means the world. The world. Because that's the difference between playing the 49ers and the Lions in the first round of the playoffs. You definitely want that 6 spot. You do not want to fall down to that 7 spot because you do not want to play San Francisco in the first round.
Yeah, that would definitely be a tougher matchup for sure, but yeah. I mean, we won the head-to-head earlier this season, but obviously that team's going to be a different team in the playoffs. I mean, it's already a different team because we played them before the trade deadline. Now they have a young man named Chase Young on their D-line now. So
Yeah.
It would definitely be an interesting game, but I also would have a certain level of confidence going into that game. I wouldn't say I'm going to sit here and be super confident, but, obviously as a Vikings fan, I got to have some level of confidence. So, but I would obviously want to play the Lions a little bit more than the 49ers for sure.
Especially with the just inexperience of the Lions. And I know you guys lost to the Giants last year, but I mean, you guys have a little bit of playoff experience, even stating back whenever Diggs was on the team, the Minnesota.
I mean, historically, we have plenty of playoff experiences. We've made Super Bowls in the past. We've never won one, but we have plenty of Super Bowl experience or playoff experience as a franchise. So it definitely runs in the franchise as far as playoffs go.
So I think it means the world. I don't want to play this. I would not want to play this 49ers team. I would much rather want the Lions. So it's going to be interesting. And then, like I said, you have two teams right on your tail, being the Rams and the Seahawks. Both of them are looking to squeeze in there. That matchup against the Packers is gonna end up being a whole lot. It is gonna be that's gonna have a lot of meaning behind that game here in a few weeks.
It's gonna matter a lot for sure.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the other side of that spectrum, though? The losing team on that Sunday night game, which was the Chiefs. You look at them and you're like, oh, well, they're only 8-4. Like that's good. 8-4 is good. But for whatever reason, like the Chiefs are not the Chiefs that we know. Like something you watch them play and you're like, how is this team 8-4? Like this team does not look good at all. Do you got any takes on Kansas City on exactly what you think is the problem, or do you think they're fine what it is, that greatness will shine?
As far as this year goes, their defense has been incredible, but their offense has not looked like the offense that we've seen in the past few years. Travis Kelce isn't having that great of a season. Patrick Mahomes isn't even having that great of a season to Patrick Mahomes standards, but Isaiah Pacheco's having a good season. I mean, every time he touches the ball, I mean, he runs that ball like his fucking life depends on it.
Stomper.
Yeah, literally, like he stomp runs. Like I have no idea how he's so quick and fast with the way he runs. It makes no sense. But it feels like every time I watch the Chiefs this year, it feels like that they can get down the field, but then when it comes to actually getting the points on the board, that's where they struggle, especially in the first half. The Chiefs have looked horrible in the first half this year. The second half is when they tend to either pull away or find a way to win the game. But in the first half, the Chiefs have looked horrible this year, and quite frankly, their defense has been saving them a lot this year. I personally don't know what's really going on with that team. Maybe it's the fact that they lost Eric Bieniemy to Washington, because he's a great offensive coordinator. So maybe it's because they lost him, or maybe it's just because, I don't know, maybe they're listening to too much T-Swift. I really don't know what it is, but they have looked like a completely different Chiefs team this year as far as offense goes.
Like, their receivers are just unreliable that to other defenses that they're playing, they can focus. They can, like, literally just direct all their attention to Travis Kelce. They can shut Travis Kelce down. I mean, he's a great player, but when you do have triple coverage on you all game long, you can't expect him to do much. You know what I mean? So I kind of get that, but, like, I mean, they've been in the headlines multiple times this year just by their receivers just dropping balls. And then you sit there and watch it, and, like, it's not like Mahomes is having a bad year as far as throwing the ball. He is putting it right in their chest. And they are just dropping it. It's straight up drops. It is like the definition of a drop. So, like, I know since they lost Tyreek Hill, they have kind of ran that just not having a top tier receiver and kind of just being heavy on Kelce type of offense and passing the ball that way. But it looks like finally it is coming back to bite them in the butt. They don't have that one guy other than Kelce, obviously. I know you said Pacheco's having a good year, but Pacheco can't run routes like a receiver can. It's showing that they just don't have the talent there on their offense. And Mahomes, as good as he is, like I said in the past, some people call him the GOAT already. As much as he is the GOAT, he can only do so much. He can only place the ball in their chest so many times. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just... And it also could just be like the famous Super Bowl hangover. You saw my Chicago Cubs back in 2016 when we won the World Series. That following year, we were borderline terrible, in my opinion, compared to what we should have been. We should have been a dynasty that one year back from like 2016 on. But for whatever reason, we had that World Series hangover, and we never really could rebound from that 1 year, that one special year in 2016. And to me, it kind of seems sort of similar. Like, Kelce is obviously, he's involved with all his Taylor Swift and all the social media and the bright lights and stuff like that. And so is Mahomes. So I wonder, it just makes you think in the back of your head, is football not their number one priority right now? It's hard to say.
Yeah, I would definitely say it is, just because you kind of want to say it is. You'd hope it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they are professionals after all at the end of the day. But yeah, it's an interesting situation they got going on in Kansas City this year. But would you like to do you have anything else you want to mention about the Chiefs, or do you want to?
No, that's about all I got. That's all I got right
now. Let's see here. What else we got on here? You want to talk about QB injuries this year? Because QBs have looked like they've been the most injured position this year in the league. Obviously, some big names are Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins,
Rodgers,
Trevor Lawrence last week. Justin Fields was hurt for a few weeks. Matthew Stafford was hurt for a couple weeks. Let's see, who else? Pickett just got hurt today or last week, and I'm pretty sure he's out for a few weeks, if not the season.
Wasn't Purdy out for a week or two?
Um,
I thought Purdy was out for a week or
I
something like
think
that.
he was. Yeah, Purdy was out for a week or so. So many QBs are getting hurt this year, which is very interesting because, like, I feel like we haven't seen like many injuries at the other positions in the league, but QB seems like it's getting beat up this year.
Yeah. Now, is it? It makes me think, like, is it just a coincidence that all these quarterbacks are getting hurt this one year more than that we've seen in the past? But at the same time, it's the question that's been talked about for a while, and it could be turf fields. And a lot of some of these injuries are contact induced, that they get hurt once they get hit by contact. But we've seen a handful that have been practically a non-contact injury, or even if it is an injury, it's something else, or even if it is a contact injury, it's because of something else that happened. It wasn't directly because of the contact. So, I mean, it does make you think, is turf just that bad that more and more players are getting hurt? Or is it O-lines? O-lines aren't doing their job. Their one job is to protect the quarterback. They like, that is the only reason they get paid millions of dollars, is to not hurt their star quarterback. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you see guys like A-Rod and Kirk's injuries, and they were literally just doing their normal drop back, and then boom, they tear their Achilles. And it feels like a lot of QBs have just been going down like out of nowhere this year.
Anthony Richardson's a big one too. I forgot to
Yeah, Anthony. Well, see, my thing with Anthony Richardson's injury is I think his was more induced by the way he was playing. He was playing very reckless. Not scared to get hit, not scared to hit somebody. I mean, it felt like anytime he ran the ball, he was looking to truck somebody. He wasn't afraid to put his shoulder down. And at the end of the day, I think that's what got him hurt. At the end of the day, the injury he suffered was a shoulder injury that he needed to get surgery on. So, I definitely think that was a little induced by himself and his own play style. But I think it's something they'll definitely address this offseason going into next year, and I think we could definitely see him play more cautious next year.
Yeah. I hope so. Because
I hope it's not something like RG3, which I know RG3's was his knee, so it's a bit different because at least AR can still run the ball. But with RG3, we saw him tear his ACL, and then he came back the next year and never scrambled, like never scrambled again. He just strictly became a pocket passer from that point on. So I hope we don't see that type of switch from AR, because I mean his whole thing is how great of a dual threat that he is. And, obviously he has great arm talent, but I feel like if he keeps up the dual threat ability that he possesses, that'll be super dangerous for teams.
I hope that Richardson takes the path of Lamar Jackson. I whenever Lamar first came into the league, I was like, there's no way this guy is running all over these defenses. He's gonna get his head knocked off, and he's gonna get hurt. He's gonna get seriously hurt, potentially even career-ending injury. Well, he did take those big shots, and you could tell his body was starting to get beat up a little bit. So what did he do over one offseason? He beefed up. The guy beefed up and was a different looking guy. He was huge, just absolutely massive. And I mean, you could still say that Jackson is smaller than some of these other quarterbacks, but he beefed up for Lamar Jackson standards. Richardson is another quarterback that is kind of that smaller, skinnier build, and it's gonna take, that is a one way, not gonna 100% prevent injury, but it is a way to prevent somewhat of injury, is to put on muscle, put on weight, and just have more to rely on whenever those contacts hit. So I hope that this offseason comes and Richardson can get back to a healthy Anthony Richardson, the same Anthony Richardson that we do know him of, and is able to put on a little bit of weight, just be more NFL ready. I guess that's a good way to say it, is become more NFL ready.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Joe Burrow is another big injury.
Yeah, Joe Burrow, yeah. Yeah, we definitely can't go over that one. That one was weird. That one was really weird because it didn't seem like it was contact that did it. It just seemed like his hand just gave out on him. Yeah. It was very weird, but hopefully, I mean, I know he got surgery on it, so hopefully he's good for next year because he's a great quarterback. But yeah, that was definitely an odd injury to see for sure, at least for me personally, just because I've never seen that before. I guess we saw it with Brock Purdy last year in the NFC Championship. He kind of had the same ish injury.
I mean, even just doing that motion, you can feel those ligaments kind of just tighten up when you're doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, you do that. I mean, these quarterbacks are doing that 1,000 times a day.
Yeah.
So it's very similar to your elbow, like what MLB pitchers go through. It's called Tommy John surgery. It's right here in the elbow. We're just throwing and throwing and throwing 1,000 times a day. Eventually, those ligaments are just going to wear out and they're going to snap. So it just, to me, it seems like it is something that should be fine. It shouldn't, if he proceeds with caution, which obviously they ruled him out for the rest of the year, which I think is smart. I mean, he's got practically a year to recover from that injury. I think Burrow will be fine. I hope he's fine, because I mean he's up there with just the talent, as we're losing players like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, as far as they're leaving. Joe Burrow is the next generation of quarterbacks.
He's top five right now. He's top five right now.
Oh yeah. I would say so, definitely. And just what they've built over there in Cincinnati, and again, that's kind of, you could say, our hometown team here in Louisville. I would say it's between them and the Colts. A lot of Bengals fans here. So just we're kind of forced to see it. How much they have grown to being the laughingstock of the league, to a in and out every year Super Bowl contender. And that big reason of that is because of Burrow. Burrow has turned over that franchise to nothing else. It's something unbelievable. So another player that I hope definitely recovers and is able to continue his career as it is. But at the same time, we saw it last week. What's his name? Jake Browning, I think that's his name.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have a great game, but he got the job done. He got the job done for what it's worth. He came in and was able to get a win for his team. Jake Browning could be the next future Bengals superstar. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, if something like very bad happens to Joe Burrow, I think that's what would force, that to happen. But I mean, yeah, like you said, he played very good. He only missed 5 passes, and he threw for 354 yards and 1 touchdown, but only missing 5 passes is absurd. I don't think I've seen that this year.
Especially for I believe it's his first ever NFL game. It's
his first ever start.
Yeah, I should say start. For his first ever start's really impressive. Extremely impressive, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that's something, as this year, even just a few weeks ago, I was calling them a potential Super Bowl favorite. Without Burrow, I would take them out, definitely. But at least it's something to kind of be hopeful for the rest of the season for Bengals fans. Mm-hmm. Something to look forward to is just kind of seeing his development, and just to know you have him. Even though if he does continue to shine, he'll probably go somewhere else and get a bigger contract. But yeah.
Alrighty. Do you have anything else you would like to talk about, Parker?
No, not necessarily. Not as far as last week go or anything like that. No.
Okay. I guess what do you have any games that you're specifically looking? Actually, you know what? I don't normally like to do this, but let's actually skip week 14 matchups because I actually want to spend some time talking about our fantasy situation we've got going on. I'll let you explain it since you're actually the one who's kind of in the thick of it. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am in a funky situation. So let me lay out the field here. Me and Josh, we are playing each other. This is the last week of the year before the playoffs start. My good friend over here, Josh, he has locked up a playoff spot. He has clinched. So this game necessarily doesn't matter for him. He, I believe, which I'm looking, maybe the 3 spot. It looks like it's going to be the 3 spot, but potentially if something crazy happens, then the 2 spot. But more than likely, you're going to lock up the 3 spot. Me, on the other hand, I'm sitting at 5. The top 6 teams make the playoffs. Really, 1, 2, 3, and 4 have all clinched. So it's between 5, 6, 7, and 8. I have a game lead on everybody else, but I have the least amount of points scored for everybody else, or compared to everybody else, the other 4. Just throwing names out here. Most people probably won't know what the names are, but obviously I'm just going to say it out here. Landon and DK, they are playing up against each other in a head-to-head matchup. Those are 2 of the teams that are both 5 and 8. 1 game's behind me. Both of them have more points scored than me. And then Mason is playing as the other team, the other 3rd team in the running, or I guess you could say 4th team in the running. They are playing Alex. Alex is the best team in the league. He's sitting at 11 and 2. So a very daunting task for him. In my boat, where I am standing, if I win, I 100% get into the playoffs. I'll have a better record than the other 3 people that I'm competing against. So I shouldn't have to worry about it in that case. But if I do lose to Josh, it's going to cause a lot of craziness to transpire going into Monday night. I don't necessarily know who's on which team and who's playing on Monday night, but Monday night is going to end up being a crazy day if I do end up losing, or starting to lose, obviously. Landon and DK, they play each other. The winner gets in, right? The loser is eliminated. Well, they don't get in. The loser is eliminated. If Mason pulls out a win, it would inevitably knock me out of the playoffs, which would just be so tragic. And yeah. So it basically, if Mason loses, I get in, or if I win, I get in. So the odds, I would say, are in my favor because Mason is playing the best team in the league. He should lose. He should. I shouldn't say that, but he should. And then as far as this matchup against Josh, I had probably one of the clutchest pulls of the year, especially going into the last week. Out of left field, I went ahead and picked up Ezekiel Elliott, and I started him. I saw that Ramon Stevenson isn't playing Thursday. As of right now, it is the 4th quarter of that game. The Patriots are leading 21-18. And my man, Ezekiel Elliott, has gone off for 45 rushing yards, but also 7 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. Ezekiel Elliott is sitting right now at 24 points. And going into this game, I was projected to lose by 10 points. Now I am projected to win by 5 points against my co-host, Joshua Chodnicki. Which, again, to Josh, it doesn't mean anything. He could care less if he wins or loses this game because his spot's pretty much locked in. But to me, it means the world. It means the world. My boy Zeke coming in clutch for the boys.
The only reason why I want to win is just because I want to see the chaos that would ensue. But realistically, in order for you to lose your spot, you could lose the game and Mason could still lose and you'd still be fine. If you lose, you pretty much what would need to happen if you lose is Mason would need to win, and then he would also need DK He would also need DK to win. Or no, I'm sorry. If you lose, if you lose Parker and he wins, he's in.
Correct.
No matter what happens in Landon or DK's game, I think.
Well, really, even if Mason loses, I think he'll still be in. If I lose. If I lose,
do you have it pulled up?
Yeah, I have it up right now.
Is Mason a game back behind Landon?
No. Landon, Mason, and DK are all tied.
Okay, so if Mason wins, he does need Landon to lose. So no matter what, if Mason wins, he needs DK to beat Landon. No matter what.
No. Unless I lose. If I lose, then I'm out of the playoffs. Hypothetically.
If they all win.
If Mason wins. Yes, if Mason wins.
Right.
But for me personally, the only two things that could potentially either I have to win or Mason has to lose, and I lock 100%.
But even if you win and DK wins, then DK would replace Landon. So yeah, if you win and Mason loses, then you're fine. Because even if DK wins, he'll just replace Landon. And if Landon wins, it doesn't change anything. But if you lose,
top six, there's a world where Landon and DK both don't make the playoffs. There's a world where me and Mason both make the 5 and 6 spot.
Yeah.
Because if Landon loses, like DK beats them, Mason has a 30-point lead in points over him. So that the last week of the year, that's a lot to make up, is 30 points. So inevitably, for DK's sake, he needs Mason to lose, and he has to beat Landon to get into the playoffs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a very tricky situation, though.
But I want to bring this up to you because I don't know if you know this, which could mean something, especially what happens this week if I were to beat you. If Luke, who is sitting at 4, he wins his matchup against Noah, he would jump you for that 3rd spot.
I'm fine with that.
Meaning you would have to play me.
I'm fine with that.
Which also means if I win this week, you would have to play me again, back-to-back weeks.
I'm fine with that. I'll get I'll get it back in blood.
You can't, that would suck. That would suck, man. That would suck. No, it wouldn't suck because I just want to make the playoffs. I've said it since day one. I'm taking the Miami Heat approach. While everybody else is going off and making these trades and stuff like that, I'm sticking to my boys.
Listen, dude,
Justin Jefferson is my
I'm gonna be honest. Both sides of the bracket are extremely fucked. Because one side of the bracket has to go against Alex, and the other side of the bracket has to go against Noah. It's extremely messed up, but it is what it is.
Me personally, I'm just envisioning this clash of titans.
I would personally rather go against Alex because he just lost Tank Dell, and he doesn't have a key piece of his team anymore. Because that's 20 plus points a week gone from his team. So
if you lose this week and Luke wins, then that's what it would be. You would be on Alex's side. We'll call that the North. You'll be on the North side.
Right.
And then.
But at the same time on the South side against Noah, he is without JT for about another week or two.
Yeah, it doesn't matter though. The dude's got Christian McCaffrey.
His realistically,
it's a gauntlet.
Realistically, if Noah loses, that would probably be the funniest thing of all time.
I want to see the clash of titans when you, Josh, you go up in the second round to play Noah. Because obviously, if I do somehow sneak in at that 5 spot and I do end up beating Luke, more than likely, I don't stand a rat's ass against Alex. Alex hypothetically should dominate me. But on the other side, that's a toss-up in my opinion. I mean, I know Noah has a game on you right now, but stacking teams up against each other, you guys are very similar. So that's the first matchup. If that's how the playoffs ended up turning out, the Final Four, I should say, if that's how the Final Four ended up turning out, you should be right there. I shouldn't say you should be favorite, but you should be right there as far as even with Noah, I believe. So that's going to be a matchup that I am looking forward to, in my personal opinion, as Josh versus Noah to make it to the championship. That's what headlines it. That's the headline.
You know, I've
proceed to the fantasy football championship.
I have always made it to the playoffs in fantasy, but I've never made it to the championship. And I have a very solid run in both of my leagues this year. In my other ESPN league, I am currently in second, I believe, or I might be in third actually. It's either second or third, and right now I'm just trying to. This is the last week of the regular season, and I believe I'm in second right now. And honestly, really, all I want is to just win this week so I can secure that first round bye. Because if I can get that first round bye, Parker, I'm pretty sure come second round, I'm pretty sure JT comes back, and I have him on my team in that league. So that would be extremely helpful for me to get JT back, because then my team becomes significantly better. Without JT, my team's honestly somewhat mid. But with JT, my team becomes elite, and it's a championship winning team. I just, at the end of the day, I just don't want to lose money in fantasy. And in both of my leagues, I believe in our league, Parker, if you get second, you get money back, I think.
No.
Is our league winner takes all?
Our league is the best overall record gets their money back, and then the champion gets the rest of the money. So if you are second in the league, you don't get anything, and if you lose in the championship, you do not get anything.
That would be some bullshit if Alex wins the championship too, because he has the best record too. So he would literally just win everything. Like it doesn't.
He won it last year too.
That's he won. He won it last year too. And
so I mean, Josh, I'm looking at your team real quick right now. Your biggest flaw is definitely your running backs. I mean,
they're very inconsistent.
I was going to say, on paper, they are good. You got Bijan Robinson and Tony Pollard. But just the consistency, man. The consistency is not there at all. And then on your bench, you have James Conner, which is in and out of injury.
Yeah.
Except he did end up having
he dropped 22.
But yeah, definitely your running backs, if somebody is going to try to beat you, me, I'm going to need some inconsistent play from Bijan and Tony Pollard if I'm going to have a chance. For sure.
Yeah, that wouldn't be fun for me personally, but I think I have some good matchups coming into this week, so I'm kind of looking. I'm hoping for Actually, I take that back. I have horrible matchups this week. Tony Pollard, I forgot they played the Eagles this week, so he honestly might get shut down. Or he'll become a PPR legend this week, which would be fun.
Yeah.
But my wide receiver matchups are very likable. But you also have
unless Tyreek Hill doesn't play.
Yeah, that's true, but he'll play. But you have anything else you wanna talk about, Parker, before we head out of here?
No. I'm in 4 leagues altogether. And one of the leagues I did clinch. I don't have to worry about that. But all the other leagues, I am either right outside the playoffs or the last spot in the playoffs. And every one of my matchups is coming down to this week alone. So you best believe I am locked into fantasy this week. It's a must win. It's a must win. That's all I can say. I've been saying it, and especially in this league that I'm in with you, I've been saying it's a must win for 2 months now. It's a must win. But now I mean it. I mean it to the boys.
Honestly,
must win.
I gotta be honest. The fact that you held on for this long with no Jay Jettas is crazy, because
no Jay Jettas, no Aaron Jones either.
Yeah,
he's been in and out of injury.
Because when Jay Jettis went down, you and me were thinking, it's done. Like I'm finished, type of thing. But
I said it.
You're still here.
In the group chat.
You're still here.
I said it in the group chat earlier today, and I'll say it again. Don't let me get into these playoffs. You understand me, Josh? Don't let me get into these playoffs. Do everything in your power. You don't want me in these playoffs.
Let's cut to like 3 minutes ago when he said, "I'm terrified of playing Alex."
No. But that's all. But that's the good thing about the playoffs. You know, all it takes is one bad week.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's gonna be fun for sure. But I assume that's everything we've got going, Parker.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, that's going to do it from us here at the Take His Whistle podcast. We appreciate you guys for listening, as always. And hopefully you guys enjoy this one. And we'll see you guys after this week. And hopefully it's a good week for both me and Parker in at least one of our leagues. Parker, obviously, I'll talk to you off the podcast, but publicly on the podcast, I wish you luck this week. And, yeah.
May the best man win.
May the best man win. All right. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.